This is NDTV, and you're watching NDTV Profit.
Welcome to a very special episode of All About Ads on NDTV Profit. This is almost like a masterclass. And joining us is the CEO of Vuclip, Nickhil Jakatdar. Vuclip, as some of us might be aware, is one of the world's largest mobile video platforms. Also joining us are some students from FMS, that is Faculty of Management Studies, who are studying to be marketers in future and perhaps even entrepreneurs. So thank you all, and let's get started. You have a question?
Since you've started the company and it's doing fairly well, how are you pushing your application for the users? You must be having some kind of a marketing strategy in mind.
When we first started the company, being short on funds, we had to build the company the old-fashioned way. So we built a great product and we decided to make it browser-based. Today, we are at almost 100 million monthly active users who come to Vuclip from all over the world. And the total marketing budget over the 6 years has been exactly $0.
Zero marketing budget. There would always have been a mention, yeah, we have some funds, we have some hits coming. Let's start pushing product through marketing channels and get more results, faster growth. Right. So what kept you on the non-marketing path?
See, I think the thing that every entrepreneur should think about, at least I definitely believe in that, is marketing. Your best marketer is your consumer. Okay? That $1 spent on building a greater product for a consumer makes that consumer so happy that he will go tell 100 friends. Whereas if I spend money on a marketing budget, for every $1 I spend, I'll get one consumer. Or for every 10 rupees or 5 rupees, whatever the consumer acquisition cost is, I get only that consumer, right? So the power of multiplication doesn't happen.
Marketing is not just about spending monies. It's about intelligently reaching out to consumers. How much of a role do you see PR playing, where you're paying the PR companies, but you're not really spending on acquiring consumers? Yeah,
I think right there is a pretty critical thing to think through. When it comes to consumer acquisition, I believe the approach is go build a great product. Our user is the rural user, is the user from the second tier and third tier cities. If I go and meet the CEO of a top carrier or a top content provider, they are not our users. So if I ask them, do you know Vuclip? They'll say, I don't know, I've never heard of you. How do I get to the carrier or the content provider top management? It is going to have to happen through PR.
But you are spending on PR, so it's not as if there is zero spend on marketing, because that is sort of spending on...
That is fair. Yeah. So if you break up marketing into promotion versus PR, on promotion it's zero, on PR it is a certain amount.
Okay, just to also mention that we are talking about pre-buffered content, which is available, like he mentioned, in tier 2, tier 3 towns and cities in India. If you've watched the ads for Airtel, where you get to watch a video for 1 rupee, then you're actually taken into the Vuclip site, right?
हनुमान जी हैं।
अब वीडियोस देखो सिर्फ ₹1 में, बस 56789 पे कॉल करो. Videos for 1 rupee, friendship free.
This 1 rupee video that Shruti mentioned, that's on Airtel, that's run by us. Now, I can talk a lot about what Vuclip does, but I've found if I just say that 1 rupee video thing, everybody knows about it. Right? That everyone has seen the ad, and that is a beautiful example of the value of being able to piggyback on a brand like that.
But are you okay piggybacking on a bigger brand like Airtel?
Yes and no, and I'll tell you what I mean by that. Over the last 6 years, we have built a brand as Vuclip. Okay? So these consumers, they all know of Vuclip. Okay? When enough consumers got to know about Vuclip, that word through a combination of consumer feedback, through a combination of carriers seeing their data logs and seeing this Vuclip name constantly popping up as one of the biggest drivers of data. All of that came together, and the carrier said, this company Vuclip seems to have figured out video, mobile video. Yeah? So that got our brand, and that's the brand we want to build. That got us to power Airtel's video, and we do a similar type of thing for Vodafone and Idea and the others as well. So that is a different type of brand building. Okay? And for us, it's critical to do both. The fact that we work with these carriers makes the content providers say, oh, if you're working with them, I'll give you my content. And then we say, great, we'll take your content for this rupee one thing, but we'll also take your content for Vuclip.com.
There are a lot of restrictions in the Chinese market, like many social sites are not being allowed and all. So what are the challenges that you face in the Chinese market regarding the content, and how is it good or bad as compared to Indian market where there is no restriction?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. So the Chinese market, as you correctly pointed out, has a lot of restrictions. UGC, user-generated content, is almost not allowed. There were the YouTube equivalents trying to pop up all over China about 5-6 years back. Almost all those companies have either gone out of business or have converted to more like a Netflix, premium content. What ends up happening is that that same premium content is wanted and desired by everybody. That drives up the price of content dramatically, and it doesn't even give consumers that much choice. Net, the Indian system and the Indian market is much healthier in that regard, because consumers get to watch what they want to watch. Content doesn't get so expensive, so even smaller companies can build businesses around this.
Could you discuss about your revenue model? And then you talked about the difference between India and China. What gives you better revenue?
Our revenue model has two main parts. There is an advertising model, where we show ads against some of our premium content, but that's today a smaller piece. The second model, which is our dominant model, is what we call a freemium model. And a freemium model is basically what we have found is in a market like India, it's a very price sensitive market. If you try to build a service in India around video or anything, where you tell the consumer that whole site is a paid site, they will not even come to the site. But if you give them a lot of free content, okay, they'll come and they'll consume a lot of free stuff. And then in a very targeted manner, you upsell them on premium content. So for example, a consumer comes to Vuclip.com, they watch a lot of football videos. I will then, after they watch a few videos, show them the option. Do you want to watch the Barclays Premier League goal of the day for 2 rupees? Okay? They have the option of saying yes or no. If they said no, continue watching free stuff, and I'll again find an opportunity to try and upsell you on something else you're watching. If you said yes, I would then use the carrier billing, bill them the 2 rupees, and give them the content. Now, it's a very small percentage that will say yes. But the trick is, if the amount of free users is huge, then even a small percentage is a big number, right? So that is our model, is a freemium model, and we have found that that model actually scales beautifully in emerging markets. Between India and China, where do we make more money? Definitely India. Yeah. So if you think that the Indian user is price sensitive, you should see the Chinese consumer. Right? They are not only price sensitive, they're also pretty amazingly innovative in figuring out ways to break the system. It is much harder to monetize the consumer there. For example, the iPhone, the Chinese market is one of the biggest markets for Apple, right? After the US. So people in China will spend a lot of their hard-earned money on buying an iPhone. But then after that, they're not going to spend too much money. So the number of apps that get downloaded in China are extremely high. But the number of paid apps that get downloaded, not so much.
If China gives you X percentage, how much would be India then?
10x.
Really?
You have a competitive advantage having a pre-buffered product. But with the penetration of technology, 4G coming into picture, 3G and 4G coming into picture, and spreading across India, including tier 2, tier 3 cities, how will you position yourself differently and keep the same advantage over, say, your competitor YouTube?
I think this is a very good question, because this is sort of the fundamental of our business. The way our technology works, what we really do is we optimize for the device and the network. The second point is if you look at the amount of spectrum available, 3G in India is a very narrow spectrum 3G. Out of 700 million mobile subscribers in India, about 100 million people have used the internet. But only 30-40 million of them use it on a regular basis. 50-60 million use it on a one-off type basis, right? So the penetration is 14% or 100 million. But the reality is more like 7-8% on a regular ongoing basis. Now, if you look at how much the network is already under stress with today's internet base, imagine what will happen when that 40 becomes 100 and that 100 becomes 200 and 300 and 400. The problem is only going to get worse, not better. Today, I'm on AT&T in the US on a 4G network on an iPhone. My videos buffer every time. The reason is not because 4G is bad. 4G is pretty good. But you know, as people have moved from feature phones to low-cost smartphones to high-end smartphones to tablets, even the requirements are getting more and more intense, right? Today, yeah, it's HD video. If you watch a full movie, a 2-hour movie on an iPad today, it is going to be about 2 gigabytes. Today, most data plans are about 2 gigabytes. So in one movie, you'll finish off your entire data plan. You will buy one more data plan. So what do people do? They go onto Wi-Fi networks and they try to offload and all of that. But the bottom line is the stress on the network keeps increasing as the devices get better. The more spectrum you give, the more the devices get better to hog all of that, right? So this problem is not getting better, it's actually getting worse.
Okay, because we are an advertising show, that's what we are going to focus on, advertising on the mobile platform after this short break.
This is NDTV, and you're watching NDTV Profit.
Welcome back. You're watching a very special episode of All About Ads on NDTV Profit, almost like a masterclass, where we are joined by the CEO of Vuclip, Nickhil Jakatdar, and we are focusing on advertising because it's an advertising show. We are also joined by students from FMS who will be asking some questions. So let's get right to it. How do you make money on this platform? You mentioned advertising and you mentioned the freemium model. What is the next trend that we are seeing?
Mobile advertising, frankly, it's still in its early stages. There is some usage throughout the day, but the maximum usage is between 9 p.m. and 1 a.m. In each country we operate in, there are two types of advertisers. There are the transactional advertisers, people who want to sell you something at that point in time. And then there are brand advertisers. Traditionally, brand advertisers are where the bigger monies are spent. There has been a lot of transactional advertising activity for quite some time, for the last 4-5 years. But you can't build a business on a pure CPC, cost per click type model. The brand advertising dollars, when they start flowing, that's when you can build a whole business around that. And over the last 6 months, they have started coming in because they have to solve this problem of how to get to the consumers. Now that they've decided they want to do that, the question becomes, what is it that they're most comfortable doing? Is it a text ad? Is it a banner ad? Or is it a video ad? If we believe that TV is where they've been spending their money, video is a much more logical extension. The brands are coming and saying, okay, give me an experience, give me an ROI on a video spend, on a video campaign. And I think we're still in the early days. We're doing pre-rolls and stuff like that. We're doing some interesting other rich media campaigns. But it's all focused around video. As they get more and more comfortable with it, as they see the appropriate ROIs, we expect that spend will go up.
What happens in that scenario where I also want the option as a consumer to be able to skip those ads?
That is one of the most important questions that has come up. And one of the things that Google, I think, did really well is they introduced the skippable ads on YouTube.
Absolutely.
There was a lot of initial hesitation from advertisers, from content providers, because most consumers will skip the ad. How many consumers are excited about watching an ad? But I think what they proved through this process was that showing an ad to a consumer who is not interested actually has a reverse or the opposite impact of what you want as a brand. Instead, if what you did was you allowed the user to skip, and they still decided not to skip and watch the ad instead, then they really want to watch the ad. That means every view I had was from a willing consumer. What they could prove is, well, then why don't you increase the CPMs by 5 times? Because now I'm getting you a committed, excited consumer. You as a brand should be willing to spend 5 times more. And so they found a very good balance for the advertiser, for the brands, as well as for the publishers who are trying to make money off of it.
But research has indicated that I may be willing to watch an ad on TV, but I'm not so willing to watch online because I'm assuming it comes ad-free. How do you tackle that issue? And as a platform, how do you tackle that?
For example, there's a company called Hulu. If you wanted to watch the non-ad version, you paid a little bit extra. On mobile, they only have a paid version. Now, that really tested this hypothesis of people saying, I don't want to watch ads. Well, then you pay for it, the content. Because otherwise, the content providers have no incentive to provide their content on the mobile platform, and which actually was the case for a long time.
As long as it's free, there will be ads. I agree till that point, but then the ad relevance. I mean, why would I see an ad of a fairness cream? Right. Even a fairness cream, but then why a female fairness cream when I'm watching, say, a sports video?
I think that's a very important point. I think that is what we have found, is consumers don't like ads, but they're willing to watch ads. But you show them an irrelevant ad, that really ticks them off. We can definitely start targeting the ads better, based ideally on the consumer, but you don't always get a lot of consumer information. The next best thing is on the content. So if you're watching sports content, okay, there's a certain type of brand that will appeal to you. The one innovation I've seen is again from Hulu. They show you an ad, and at the top they ask you a question while you're watching the ad. Is this ad relevant to you? Yes or no? If you say no, they make sure they never show that ad again to you.
There are Google Chrome extensions called Ad Blocker and Ad Blocker Plus. Right. Specifically, I can't even remember the last time I saw a YouTube ad, leave alone the skip part. I haven't seen a YouTube ad. It would have taken someone just 2 hours to write a code for that extension, and that basically kills the revenue model.
I think that's a real danger. But what we have found is that the number of people who are that savvy as a percentage is pretty small. So, an equivalent issue is a person going and removing their cookies. Then you lose track of that consumer. But how many people really know where I should go in the browser, remove cookies and all of that? It's, as a percentage, it's very small.
Nikhil, but isn't that key? Now you have consumers that have been brought up in this medium. They, I think, will be more tech savvy in, blocking these off. So it's going to be even more challenging for marketers.
I think this problem will get bigger and bigger. It'll take some time, but it'll get bigger and bigger. And I think the real answer to that problem lies in the fact that the ad unit needs to be more exciting and more interesting. And an example of that, a pre-roll ad is a reasonable ad unit. But somebody who wants to get to the content quickly thinks of that as a complete waste of 15 seconds of their life. One of the areas that we have found that has really worked well for us is we actually work with advertisers to figure out what type of ad is so interesting that it is almost content. Today, 3 of our top 10 videos ever are actually ads.
And what are the commonalities between them?
Always has humor. Humor is super critical. The second thing we have seen is it tugs at some emotional strings, right? But those also really appeal.
At the end of the day, creativity in your advertising has to be there.
Tickers. I mean, it started with news channels. With the humor in the ticker, it has a greater impact and it has a greater relevance too.
But the only issue is on a mobile screen. It's already a small screen. If you start using up even a small amount for an ad, it takes away from the experience.
So basically in mobile phones we see banner ads. Right. What are the other interactive ways to create a good ad on a mobile phone? What are the new technologies that are coming up?
One of the most interesting ones is the slide to engage. Sort of, it's like, it looks like a banner, but you slide it and it takes over the screen. You get to see whatever information you want and you slide it back out. There are others where a brand decides to take over an entire site. I expect a lot of very innovative ad units. There's Airtel Rupee 1 video. But a brand tomorrow could go and say, I will zero rate the data. You want to watch the 5 best Salman Khan videos? Come to the Axe Salman Khan zone. Give a missed call, you'll get back an SMS, you click on the link, it'll open the Axe Salman Khan zone, you watch 5 videos, you have not seen a single ad. The ad unit is the fact that that SMS you got, the site, everything says Axe. That is a very different concept, and is something that I believe will one day happen.
Talking ads that talk back to you, so it becomes an interactive thing.
So what happened?
I don't know, she's crazy.
What's wrong with you? Okay, damage control. Do they have a favorite flower?
Tulips, probably.
Try giving these and pray for the best.
Are you seeing a lot of that happen?
Not yet.
Not yet.
No, we see, call to action type things, right? You call to, you make a call, click to call. But we haven't yet seen, I've read about it, but I have not seen anything practically happening at scale.
Everything is being consumed within social media. There's got to be a tipping point somewhere where a consumer like me decides, I want everything together. Like a Pulse, for instance, where you have every other magazine or news on one consolidated site.
There have been people who have tried that. They have tried to be sort of the aggregator of social media. For whatever reason, it hasn't taken off. And I think because the brand name of the individual sites they're trying to aggregate is so big, and the brand name of these aggregators isn't big, people don't know of them or don't trust them. But the biggest thing that I've noticed, more than where it's coming from, is who is sharing it.
What are the roles that you see technology and a platform like yours playing? I'm talking education.
A year back, we did this, we created a site called .edu. There were a lot of people who showed a lot of enthusiasm towards being interested in education, receiving an education over a mobile device. And we found that there is a sweet spot for how long a lecture needs to be. And that point happened to be about 10 minutes. So if you look at the Khan Academy videos, they're about 10 minutes, which makes a lot of sense. Now, today on the mobile, 10 minutes is a long period. In that much time, lots of things can happen to the network, to the balance of the consumer and all of that. As the networks get better and the devices get better, it absolutely is going to be the future.
I can see a lot of scope in various sectors. Telecom, IT are very good sectors, but I have absolutely no background about these sectors. So what advice would you give for entrepreneurs to get into a sector in which they have no clue?
I'll take my own example. I had no clue about mobile or video or any of this. But I think you have to have a very open mind. You have to have no ego, and you have to be willing to go and talk to as many people as you can. Because the best way to learn is A, talk to people, and then B, get your hands dirty. People who come out of engineering school or even out of an MBA, and the first job they want is head of strategy. And I think that is the most bogus thing I've ever heard. How can you come up with a company strategy if you don't even know what the company's business is, right? And I truly admire and appreciate people who come out, get their hands dirty, start from the bottom, learn about every aspect of the business.
For students, perhaps get into strategy, as you just mentioned, right? Leading companies, becoming entrepreneurs. What is that one thing that you've learned that you'd like to pass on?
One piece of advice I once read, which appeals a lot to me, is you are the sum product of the 5 people that you interact with most. So make sure you spend time around good human beings with high integrity who are also smart.
Nickhil, it's been extremely enlightening. I hope he's inspired all of you, and perhaps one day we'll find you leading companies, perhaps becoming entrepreneurs and coming back on the show. Yeah, thank you very much. And of course, if you have any questions for Nickhil Jakatdar, you could write into us at aaa@ndtv.com. Of course, you can also interact with us on our Facebook page. From the entire team, till next week, thank you very much for watching.